It is Friday, I just got off of work, I am exhausted and really want to take a nap, but I told myself I was going to record this video today, so I've got to do that first, so prepare yourself for like a 50% Andy wrap up of my August reads. So August was a tough reading month for me. I don't think for any like amazingly particular issue, just for some reason I didn't read as much as I normally would. But I did read some, and let's talk about it. First, The Red and the Black by Stendhal. It's been a while for me. This book was both good and not good for me. I sort of enjoyed the prose and the post-revolutionary France setting, the sort of anti-aristocratic message, I guess, but it is witty. But at the end of the day, I never really got into this. I never really felt drawn to the main character and his plight all through the various aspects of it and his person. And it's so close to both in time and almost in style to a Leo Tolstoy novel, and yet inferior in every way that I really struggled with The Red and the Black for that reason. I was like, why am I not just reading Anna Karenina or War and Peace again? Because they're so much, in my view, better than this. So this is all right. It was a good sort of change up and a classic in the midst of a lot of fantasy, but overall it's kind of like, eh. And honestly, a lot of my small reading like stats of the month is because Red and the Black took a long time. I never really dove into it. I wouldn't just like read for an afternoon like I do in some things. And that brings me to my second kind of big finished book of the month, which is A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. Now, initially, if you were paying attention, on my TBR for August, I said that I was going to skip, I'm going to put you over here, babe, skip August in my read along or read of the Abercrombie books. I was going to take a break, and I completely planned to do that, except I was going on another camping trip and really needed to be able to bring my Kindle, and A Little Hatred was available on Kindle at my local library, and none of my other books were, so I just started it. Now, I'm not going to do a full review of A Little Hatred on the channel. I will probably do like an Age of Madness review once I finish the whole trilogy. It is an interesting outcome for me because my journey with Abercrombie has been all over the place. I just did a whole video about how I don't really like the original trilogy, although I understand sort of objectively why people enjoy parts of it. I find some pretty major flaws with it. Then the standalones, I feel like, really have a little bit better of a foundation while not being consistent in how it sort of, I don't know, keeps my attention. Particularly the heroes, while I understand, again, sort of a good book, it didn't like grab me. So I was going into the Age of Madness really hoping that a lot of this stuff would come together and I'd really, really love this series. Like I haven't been able to like unqualifyingly talk about any of the other Abercrombie. And fortunately, that's not the case. Now, I do think so far, I certainly like this better than the first Law trilogy so far, particularly the character work. The characters are very different in flavor from other characters we have met before, and they're struggling with different kinds of things. And I generally actually really did like the storytelling, and it felt really propulsive while also still being really good prose and storytelling, and Abercrombie still is a master of like physical space, both in description and action. And so that was really good in A Little Hatred. Unfortunately, Abercrombie is talking about or reflecting, I guess, a historical period in our world, the industrial age, that I find fascinating and have a lot of thoughts about and a lot of sort of historical back knowledge of. And I don't like the way that he portrays it. Broad strokes, A Little Hatred certainly is about a sort of pseudo-French revolution where workers and the common people are being cast aside or mistreated by the rise of industrialization. They have horrible working conditions. They are losing access to actually owning homes and land, or not even owning homes, but like at least having land that is leased from a noble, while also the nobles are starting to be jealous of the merchants who are gaining riches through the new technology, and that creates this like perfect powder keg of a really oppressive regime and a kingdom and angry peasants, which leads to this uprising. In my opinion, I'm going to talk a lot more about this on my Age of Madness video, but Abercrombie appears, I mean, it's never clear, but his narrative voice appears to take a more Burkean view of the French Revolution. What do I mean by that? I think I have it actually over here. Yeah. So if you have read this, if you are watching this and you know anything about the French Revolution, most likely you think it is like, or you have a negative opinion of it, that the terror was awful. I don't know, just like one of the great sorrows of history. One of the primary reasons for that is Edmund Burke's Reflections on the French or on the Revolution in France, which is a pretty huge text in how it shaped history coming out of the French Revolution. And still to this day, the echoes of the fear of the French Revolution are one of the main reasons why when socialism is talked about, people freak out. And Abercrombie, who I think is a British man, if I know correctly, and Edmund Burke obviously is a British man, and the British view, particularly of France, is generally negative anyway, and then on top of that, the French Revolution, they are negative about, certainly Napoleon. So there's a lot of historical things I could talk about, but Abercrombie does the same sort of thing where it acknowledged some of the excesses of the Industrial Revolution, while also making it clear that the worst culprits are the peasants who revolt. And maybe that will change in the next couple books, but like that message and theme really grates at me, especially in this modern day. I don't like that viewpoint. So we'll see how it goes. But A Little Hatred was a real mixed bag for me. Do you guys expect to be talking about the French Revolution and Edmund Burke? And just as a corollary there, obviously I'm not a fan of the chaos of the terror, where somewhere between 20 and 40,000 people probably died. It's hard to know stats exactly. But to talk about that in isolation without talking about probably 600,000 French people who died of starvation during the 18th century because of like things that you can't stop, such as weather, but also because of the crop system and the way that land ownership and wealth was distributed by Louis XIV's court and generally aristocracy itself, is to me a huge error in history. But that could be a much longer video. I was trying to get to a nap. Why am I talking about this so long? I really care about the French Revolution. I think it's really interesting and it has profound effects even on today's viewing of power, government, people, socialism, etc. Other books I read in August that are not in any way to do with the French Revolution. 2, Murderbot Diaries. I'm really enjoying the Murderbot Diaries. They were very, very fun. I've been listening to the audiobooks. Artificial Condition, I think, is the second one. And Rogue something. It's not Rogue Nation. That's Mission Impossible. Rogue Protocol, I think. Rogue Condition. Anyway, the second and third Murderbots, they're so great. They're wonderful. Each one is executed really well with a great use of page count. And I'm really loving that series. I've taken a little bit of a break, so I was like hoofing through them. But I think I'm going to get back on that horse pretty soon because Murderbot's great. I'm really glad I read them. I'm also almost done as we sit here with a John Quincy Adams biography by James Taub. Is it Traub? Is it with? Yeah, it is with an R. Traub. Traub. I always have trouble with that. John Quincy Adams is a fascinating figure. Very ordinary, just like his father. Stubborn, but also has some really amazing stands in history. Was an amazing proponent for getting rid of the slave trade for years when it was very unpopular leading up to the Civil War. Obviously was president, did a lot to form the diplomatic corps of the United States. Really, really interesting guy. So I'm really liking that book and sort of slowly enjoying my way through it. Movies that I saw in August. It was a really great month for movies, especially new movies, especially for an August, which is normally sort of a dumping ground for summer blockbusters. But there's some great movies that either I saw late or that came out. The first one is Weapons. If you watch movies, you probably have seen this. The basic conceit is that at 2:17 a.m. in the morning, all the kids except for one in this elementary school classroom disappear into the night without a trace. They don't know why. They don't know why it was at 2:17. They don't know who's doing it, where they are. And this just fantastic screenplay unveils this really horrific, evil presence that has come to this town. It is, just as a movie and as a script, fascinating. It is terrifying. One of the scariest experiences I've had seeing something in the movie theaters. I actually went with a big group of friends, but we were too late to sit by each other. So I sat like by myself in the corner next to strangers, and some gross imagery that's used really well. And I think a really important message about what society is willing to put kids through for certain predispositions. Weapons is really good. You should see it. And it's very scary. A second incredible film that I saw was Eddington. Now, this is a movie that has gotten kind of a mixed response as it is coming out. It is by the same director that did Midsommar and Hereditary and Beau is Afraid. His name is Ari Aster. He's sort of a figure that challenges you no matter what movie you watch. In Eddington, this takes place in 2020 during the pandemic, and a county sheriff runs for mayor against a mayor who is perceived to be more, I don't know, liberal or pro policies that help public health during the pandemic. There's a lot of stuff I could say about this film. It was one of the most powerful films I've seen in a long time. Very visceral reaction I had to it. I've never seen how internet culture and doom scrolling affects real life psychology and how we view the actual physical world depicted on a film as good as Eddington. And I will leave it at that because I think people should see this movie. I really want to talk about it for a long time, but that's not a place to do it here on a wrap up. But Eddington, if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it. Not everyone's going to love it, but I think it is going to challenge you, especially if you can like put your phone down and just watch it by itself and stick with it through some crazy stuff. My personal reading or watching of stuff, I've been going through Coen Brothers movies, and they're just as good as you think. If you haven't seen The Big Lebowski or The Hudsucker Proxy or Fargo or No Country for Old Men, what are you doing? They're all amazing. There are a couple that I hadn't seen ever that I'm so glad I finally saw, like Barton Fink, Miller's Crossing, and actually Hudsucker Proxy, like kind of a lesser-known Coen films. They're all excellent. Ang Lee, I'm finishing up my watch there. I still haven't seen as I watch this, or as I record this, Brokeback Mountain and Life of Pi, which are the last two that I need to see. But I got to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is just excellent. And I even watched his Hulk, which I thought was better than I remembered. I'm also going through Christopher Nolan watched Memento, and that was as good as I thought. I thought it might be kind of a fluky movie because I watched it in high school and loved it, and I was like, oh, maybe it's just like a storytelling thing. Nope. That script is so good. The actors are doing so well, and you can absolutely see why Nolan rose to become such a prominent voice in the industry. That's what I read and watched in August. Like I said, it was kind of a slower month, but I enjoyed it, and I have now recorded this video so I can go take a nap. Let me know what you read in August or thoughts you have about what I read and watched. First in, last out.